Welcome back to Coffee with Gringos, brought to you by Dynamic English. I'm your host, Jesse Andrews Maxwell, and I'm joined today by my lovely co-host, Brittany Duke. So, hi Brittany.
Hi Jesse, how are we today?
Doing pretty good.
Good.
Today is a Friday,
Friday. We
excellent.
love Fridays.
So on today's podcast, we're going to be talking about strange things that Brittany and I encounter in Chile. Both Brittany and I have lived in Chile for many years, and there's many things that we've noticed that to us, coming from the United States and South Africa, respectively, seem very strange.
Yeah, different, interesting.
There's a lot of strange little customs. So let's get started. What would you say, Brittany, is probably one of the strangest things that you have observed here in Chile?
So in South Africa, we don't have any natural disasters. Okay. So for me, definitely the most interesting thing that I've noticed is when there's a tremor in Chile.
An earthquake.
An earthquake. Okay, I've never been here during an earthquake.
Okay.
But during a tremor, I lived in La Serena for 6 months, and I lived with a grandmother, a mother, and the granddaughter, you know? And it was fascinating for me to be in the room when there was a tremor, because the grandmother would be with her tea and would be shaking, but she would so gracefully just
remain calm.
Everybody was completely calm,
right.
To the point where I was like, am I imagining this?
No, I agree with you. I think I'm from a state that never experiences earthquakes. So the only time I've ever experienced them is living here in Chile. And yeah, for me, it's a very nerve-wracking and kind of emotional moment where I don't know, is this going to end? How long is this going to last? But my roommate just remains calm.
Exactly.
No.
Does she even say anything?
No.
No, neither. No, people around me, Chileans, they just continue with what they're doing.
Continue about, the room is shaking. Okay, no big deal. Let's just continue with our tea.
Exactly.
So yeah, I would definitely say that that's one of the stranger things about Chileans.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I find strangest, and will be coming up on the new year pretty soon, is all of the customs and the traditions, I guess, I would actually say superstitions, that Chileans have around the new year. So are you familiar with any of these customs that they do?
So I've only heard about the grape thing, like you have to eat 12 grapes or something?
So they believe that you need to eat 12 grapes, but they also have this superstition, and I've seen it personally.
Yeah.
It looks very ridiculous. But people will get a suitcase and run around their living room or run around their house, because the belief is that by running around the house with a suitcase that you will travel more in that year. Exactly.
I like that one. I think I'm going to adopt it.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to travel more? But I think it's just a bit ridiculous to be running around your house at midnight with an empty suitcase. So the other thing about New Year's, I don't know if you've experienced this, but around after Christmas, I would say, right before New Year's, you will start to see a lot of street vendors selling only yellow underwear. Because the belief is that if you are wearing yellow underwear on New Year's Eve, it brings good luck.
Interesting.
So you're going to see a lot of yellow.
I'm definitely going to keep my eye open this year, because I've never actually seen any of these traditions being like practiced, you know?
Yeah, they really do. I've seen all of them. And it's a bit strange.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, that's for sure.
In the United States, for New Year's, we just get really drunk and have a big party.
Exactly.
So the whole the pre-show that goes into planning here in Chile is a bit different.
100%. I mean, for me, coming from South Africa, South Africans are more superstitious, so I get it.
Okay.
I wouldn't do that, and I don't practice the superstitious traditions.
Okay.
But I definitely feel like I get it.
Okay.
I get
Now,
them.
do you think that this coming up year, you will maybe start practicing some of the Chilean traditions? Oh, okay.
I already told you. That suitcase one is right up my alley.
There you go. Nice.
So talking about these interesting, these things that you've noticed, have you noticed, just in terms of like fashion, that Chileans don't wear flip-flops like in public? Maybe
Right.
at the beach,
Yeah.
but even then, I lived in La Serena, and it wasn't super common to see people walking around in flip-flops.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, I think in South Africa you actually don't call them
No.
flip-flops. You call
We say the better version of the word, which is slip-slops.
them slip-slops. So for those of you who maybe aren't aware, I think here in Chile everyone calls them Havaianas.
Oh, really? Not sandalias? Or
No.
yeah.
But most people will refer to them as Havaianas. Speaking of that, you're correct. You don't see a lot of exposed toes
Is it a
in
thing
the street.
against exposed toes, do you
I
think?
don't know culturally, and I really don't care because as the weather gets warmer, that is all you will find me wearing. Is nothing but flip-flops in the street, on the beach. Doesn't matter. Once it's hot outside, it's flip-flops all the way.
Yep.
But speaking of, I said that Chileans often call the flip-flops Havaianas. That's the other strange thing about Chile, is the referring to a product by a name. So for example, I've never heard a Chilean say cream cheese. They won't say queso crema, they say un Philadelphia,
Yeah, I've heard
calling
that.
it by the brand.
Quicks.
Quicks as well, instead of saying, dishwashing soap, they just say, no, Quicks. The same thing for toilet paper.
Comfort.
It's a brand, but it doesn't matter if it's that brand or another, it's still just referred to as Comfort.
Y Colgate. También. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that they just refer to,
It is interesting.
Not so different though. In the United States, especially in the South, you can go to a restaurant and say, I want a Coke, Sprite. Because all Fanta, Sprite, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, they're all referred to as Coke.
As Coke.
But then you have to be more specific in which type you would like.
I thought it was like more soda in the US. Or
It
pop
depends.
or something.
It depends on the region.
Yeah.
Yeah, each section of the US is going to call that
something different.
So, but where I'm from, it's a Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, just back to the fashion thing, because I feel like that's where I've noticed the most interesting differences between South Africa and Chile is, have you noticed that most women don't wear makeup?
I have noticed. I do notice that. But I don't know if I find that strange.
It's not strange. I love it.
Okay.
I feel like it's so empowering as a woman to be able to just go au natural, you know? Because in South
I would
Africa,
agree.
full face makeup every day.
Now, well, speaking of women and what they wear, there's a lot of, I guess, shorter women in Chile. So the shoes that a lot of women wear are these big, like thick platform boots that make them taller, but
way taller.
But it's like everyone, or most women, will walk around in these big, giant, giant boots. So I've always found that to be a little strange.
I've never seen that anywhere else. Not that I've traveled to like hundreds of places, but I've never seen that. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like it.
Yeah, well, you're a little more fashionable, I guess, than I am, because if I'm not doing a broadcast or teaching a class, I dress like a homeless person. So yeah, I'm not super big on the fashion.
Yeah.
Speaking of fashion, have you noticed that here in Chile during the winter it's just black? Everyone just wears black. There's no yellow coats or red coats or green. It's just black. So I don't know if it says something about how cold it is, or maybe just the popularity of black.
I mean, I feel like now, if I think about my cupboard, my closet, sorry, speaking to an American, and we say cupboard, most of the things I own are black.
No, most of the things I own are also black. Black and gray are my two go-to colors. but I also have a blue coat.
Right.
And I have a green coat. Not just black.
Just all black
Yeah.
every day.
So,
Yeah, it
yeah.
is. I've actually noticed that too. My roommate and I were talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, and speaking of clothing and maybe rolling back to superstitions, I find it very, very strange that Chileans have a belief that if it's very cold and you don't wrap your neck with a scarf, that you will get sick.
Yes.
And there's nothing about that
No.
that is actually true.
Factual.
Right? You get sick because of a germ or something, not necessarily because your neck got cold.
Yes.
Yeah. So you'll see these people in winter and they're just up to their eyes
Yes.
in scarves. Very strange.
I mean, I've even in La Serena with my abuelita, Chilena, she always used to like tell me to put shoes on. So I like to walk around my house with socks on. Sometimes in winter, thick socks, like winter socks. And she always used to tell me, in Spanish obviously, Brittany, please go put on some shoes, you're gonna get sick.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
also interesting. Never heard that one before.
Well, yeah, because it's clinically proven that all infections and all illnesses come straight through your feet.
From your feet, yeah.
Yeah. It's
So
I'm
maybe
not
that's
an
not
expert, I'm not a doctor, but yeah.
So maybe I'm the strange one then.
Yeah, perhaps.
But I mean, even just like on the topic of winter, when I arrived in La Serena, it was winter.
Okay.
Okay. And I remember, I will never forget, it was freezing cold coming from South Africa.
Right.
Like semi-tropical. You've been there
Yes.
in summer, right?
Yes.
So when it's on the bed, there's not like one thick thermal blanket like in South Africa.
No.
No. There's just like layers and layers of blankets. You feel like you're just like working out.
Yeah.
Trying to
I would agree. It is strange that instead of just having one thick
Yes.
blanket, it is multiple layers.
Yes.
And not just any blankets, they're always wool blankets.
Yes, exactly.
Very hot, heavy wool. And it's funny too, I have many friends here in Chile, and there's a lot of them that will use those 8 or 9 or 10 layers of blankets. And then they also have a heated blanket, which they call a caliente cama.
Yeah,
I think,
caliente
here.
cama. Yeah.
So I don't understand. I will say though, in winter and especially outside of Santiago, it can get very cold.
For sure.
Very cold. So
For sure.
I do agree
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
The amount of blankets is a bit daunting sometimes.
Yes. And what else? What other things have you found different or interesting here?
Oh, another interesting thing I always find is the way that Chileans refer to other people as an animal. So it's very common to say to a friend like, hola perrito, which would literally translate to, hello, my little dog. And it's a term of affection.
Yes, of endearment.
Yeah, but
Exactly.
you're literally calling them a dog.
I have the funniest story. My roommate doesn't speak any English, Spanish. Okay, she's South African, so she speaks English. But she doesn't speak Spanish. So one day she was, she's on a group chat with other Chileans, and they were talking about a guy, gossiping about him. And they said something like, oh, este cabro, weón, like blah, 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 blah. And she translated it, and she was highly offended on his behalf. Why are they calling him a goat?
Right. No, but again, to call someone a cabro or a goat, it's very strange to me, but to them, it's completely normal.
Yeah.
Right? So there's several of those where a term of endearment or affection
Yeah.
is actually an animal.
Yeah.
But then the other expressions that they have, sort of like pasar chancho.
Yeah.
Chancho is a pig, but if we literally translate it, it's pass the pig.
Pass the pig.
But it really means have a good time.
Yes.
So overuse, I think, sometimes of animals. Lots of references to animals. So
I love it. I
I
love
would say
it.
that's probably the strangest thing
Yeah.
for me.
I definitely, like, there's one thing that in being a foreigner and speaking to other foreigners, specifically from South Africa, which is interesting, people are obviously always surprised to find out that I'm white and from South Africa, okay? And I feel like Chileans are really polite and indirect and almost subtle about asking you personal questions, or like questions they might think are offensive, which I kind of like. I think it's so for example, when people find out, okay, Brittany is from South Africa, they'll ask me, this has happened so many times, like at least 20 times. South Africa. Were you born there? I'm like, yes. Were your parents born there? I'm like, yes. And your grandparents? I'm like, yes, we have white people.
Yes.
Basically.
To put it in simpler terms, yes, there are white people.
No sabía.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think that's something I've noticed about Chileans in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have to say, although we find some of these customs or traditions to be very strange,
Yeah.
we love our Chileans. We love our Chileans so much.
Honestly, I've chosen this to be my home.
Yeah.
So thank you for having us.
As well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, we are going to tell you again how much we love our Chileans and how much we enjoy bringing you these podcasts. If you enjoy watching them, be sure to subscribe and like. That's all I've got for today.
Yeah.
Anything else, Brittany?
No, thanks for having us, guys, and for listening, tuning in. We will see you on the next episode.
See you then. Take care.